Nadalia Scott. We're on the record in cause number 328-936. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Nadalia D. Scott. Ms. Scott, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Scott, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You have to speak up. She's taking a record. Yeah, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Ms. Scott? You doing good? Ms. Scott, the information in this case alleges that on or about January 21st of 2021, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass. Ms. Scott, do you understand what you've been charged with? And to this charge, Ms. Scott, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? Now, you're pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Yeah, okay. Now, Ms. Scott, I have before me a document that is titled the Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize this document? On page 2 of the same document, Ms. Scott, there are a set of initials on this document. The first set of initials is on a line that is checked guilty. The second set of initials is on a line below the paragraph titled Discovery Admonishment, and it is on a line, well, your initials are on a line that states, I do not request discovery of the evidence. I waive my right to request discovery in this case and choose to enter a plea of guilty or no contest. Are these your initials on page 2? On page 3 of this same document, Ms. Scott, there's a signature above the line that's titled Defendant. Is that your signature? On page, well, the next document, which is the trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, do you recognize this document? And is that your signature on the line that's titled Defendant? There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that? You have to speak up. And the second box states that you're waiving, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that? Now, Ms. Scott, prior to signing and initialing these documents, did you read the information in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And did you understand what you read?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
I also have before me, Ms. Scott, a document that is titled Judge's Explanation of Rights to Defendants Without Attorney. Ms. Scott, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And at the bottom of this document, there's a signature and some initials, and the initials are on a line that state, I want to waive my right to an attorney and to represent myself. Is that your signature on this document?
Yes, sir.
And are these your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
And I also have before me a document that is titled Waiver of Counsel for Purposes of Entering a Guilty Plea or Proceeding to Trial. Ms. Scott, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature above the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Ms. Scott, prior to signing, prior to signing all of these documents that I've just mentioned and initialing these documents, did you have an opportunity to read the documents? And did you read the documents? You didn't read these documents?
I read those two.
Okay, the documents that was handed out to you,
I can't see inside.
you what?
One body is out.
Okay, one eye, but one of your eyes is good, right?
Not really.
Okay, so you're saying you blind?
Damn near.
Okay, so my question is, did you read any of these documents?
Yes, sir.
You read the documents?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand what you read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. State, I have before me, State's Exhibit Number 1. State, would you like to offer State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Scott, the state is offering State's Exhibit Number 1 to be used as evidence against you. Now, State's Exhibit Number 1 is the misdemeanor plea admonishment. This is the document that have your initials on page 2 of this document and your signature on page 3 of this document. The state would like to use this document as evidence in your case. Is it all right for the state to use this document as evidence in your case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no objection. State's Exhibit Number 1 will be admitted. Ms. Scott, is there any evidence that you're currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
Yes, sir.
Is there evidence, are you mentally incompetent, mean that you have a mental illness that, okay, so you're not mentally incompetent? So you're competent, you understand what's going on in your case,
Yes, sir.
and you understand what you're doing here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Scott, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of guilty and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
It's 1 year deferred adjudicated probation, $500 fine plus court costs, and 40 hours community service.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, sir.
the state is offering that you serve 1 year deferred adjudicated probation. During the deferred adjudicated probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $500. Could you see if she has a magistrate warning or something like that? Now, during the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $500 and court costs of $292. The total amount of fine and court costs comes to an amount of $792. You'll be required to pay probation fees of $60 each month, a urinalysis fee of $15 each month. Now, the total amount that you would have to pay in monthly installments, in this case, is $150 per month. Ms. Scott, would you be able to pay the $150 each month?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You will also be required to perform 40 hours of community service and adhere to the other standard terms and conditions of your probation. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Now, Ms. Scott, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
Do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Scott, I will follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Ms. Scott, if you successfully complete the probationary period, this case will be dismissed. It will not result in a conviction on your record, and you may qualify for a non-disclosure. And you can talk to an attorney about applying for the non-disclosure. Ms. Scott, stand on the X near you, and you're gonna follow the directions of our court clerk. And once you finish following those directions, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day.
So these are your documents, you've already signed everything. You follow the directions on that first page on the little sheet. Yeah, and that tells you where to go for probation, and you need to go there this morning, okay? You need to.
Armando Garcia Socia. Your full name is Armando Garcia Sosa.
Yes.
How you doing, Mr. Garcia Sosa?
Good.
That's good. Mr. Garcia Sosa, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
You may put your hand down. Mr. Garcia Sosa, I have before me an information that alleges that on or about November 14th of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated with an alcohol concentration of 0.15 or more. Mr. Socia, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes.
And to this charge, Mr. Socia, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
No contest? Okay. Now, Mr. Garcia Socia, I have before me a document that is titled the Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
On page 2 of the same document, Mr. Garcia Socia, there are a set of initials. The first set of initials is on a line next to a box that's checked no contendere, which means no contest. The second set of initials is on a line that states, I do not request discovery of the evidence. I waive my right to request discovery in this case and choose to enter a plea of guilty or no contest. Now, did you place your initials on this document?
Yes.
On page 3 of the same document, Mr. Garcia Socia, is that your signature above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes.
On the next document, Mr. Garcia Socia, there is the next document is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Is this your signature above the line that is titled defendant?
Yes.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The second box states that you're waiving, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that? Now, Mr. Garcia Socia, are you a U.S. citizen?
No.
You're not a citizen? Okay, Mr. Garcia Socia, on page 1 of State's Exhibit number 1 at the bottom here, it says it says citizenship. If you are not a citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest may result in your deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, now, Mr. Garcia Socia, I'm gonna have you to sign next to the paragraph, initial, next to the paragraph where it says citizen, stating that you read and understand what's in that paragraph. Just put your initials next to that paragraph where it says citizenship, the one that I just read to you. Yes, well, I said yes.
So can I pay here with a right to an attorney or?
Let me ask you this here. Now, the part that says you have a right to have an attorney, and if you want, let me read it to you. Okay. At the bottom of that document, below the paragraph that's titled citizenship, it says you have a right to have you have a right to have an attorney represent you. If you are determined to be indigent, an attorney will be appointed to represent you. Yeah, that's all it says. Now, I have before me, that's Garcia, Amanda. Why don't you get that to him? The document that I've just handed out to you, that's the document that we went over this morning. I'll just go back over it with you again. Okay. It says, judge's explanation of rights to defendants without an attorney. As a defendant in a criminal case, you have three options. Number one, you may hire an attorney. Do you understand that option?
Yes.
Option number two, if you do not have enough money to hire an attorney, you may request an attorney be appointed to represent you. Do you understand that option?
Yes.
Option number three, you may represent yourself. Do you understand that option?
Yes.
Okay. And it goes on further to say, if you want an attorney to represent you and have enough money to hire an attorney, the case will be reset to give you time to do so. If you want an attorney and do not have the money to hire one, you will need to fill out a financial questionnaire so that the proper person can determine whether or not to appoint an attorney to represent you. You may not speak to the prosecutor about your case unless you sign a written waiver of your right to be represented by an attorney. Be aware that there are dangers to self-representation. Waiving your right to an attorney and representing yourself may result in a worse outcome for you and your case, including the loss of significant legal rights and opportunities relating to military service, possession of a firearm, housing and public benefits, child custody, immigration status for non-citizens, and employment. If you choose to proceed without an attorney, you may change your mind at any time and may request counsel from the court. Do you understand? Okay, now there are 5 choices at the bottom of this document. And basically what you do is place your initials on one of the 5 lines. Now the first line is, if you want to reset this case to hire your own attorney, you'll put your initials on that line. If you've already hired an attorney, you'll put your initials on the second line and the name of the attorney on the line next to it. Do you understand that? If you want to apply for court-appointed counsel, you'll put your initials on line number 3. Now, if you've already been appointed a court-appointed attorney, you'll put your initials on line number 4 and the name of the attorney on line number 5. Now, if you want to waive your right to an attorney and represent yourself, you'll put your initials on line number 5. Okay, so Mr. Garcia Social, what is your desire?
Can I raise the case and get my own attorney?
Yes, you can do that. Okay, so one thing he needs to do is just make that change at the top of he goes at the, yeah. Oh, is that tablet still on? Okay, you're gonna stand on the 4X. And the court coordinator is going to reset your case. And once you reset your case, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day. What is this here? What's wrong with this thing?
Another one?
Oh, it just closed. I think, okay.
Yes, yes, okay.
Guillermo Guadalupe Gomez. Now, your full name is Guillermo Guadalupe Lopez?
Gomez. Gomez.
Oh, excuse me, Gomez. Okay. Mr. Gomez, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Gomez, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may put your hand down. Mr. Gomez, how are you doing?
I'm doing that, so you.
I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. Mr. Gomez, I have before me information that alleges on or about February 28 of 2021, while you're in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed to Class B misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated. Mr. Gomez, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading guilty because you're guilty? Okay, Mr. Gomez, I have before me a document that is titled the misdemeanor plea admonishments. Mr. Gomez, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Gomez, there are two sets of initials. I guess these are your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
The first set of initials is on a line that's titled guilty. This next set of initials is on a line that states, I do not request discovery of the evidence. I waive my right to request discovery of the evidence in this case and chose to enter a plea of guilty or no contest. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of this document, Mr. Gomez, there is a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, Mr. Gomez, that is titled trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are two boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you are waiving, which means you're giving up your right to appeal. Do you understand that? Now, Mr. Gomez, I also have another document here. This document is titled Judge's Explanation of Rights to Defendants Without an Attorney. Mr. Gomez, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Gomez, is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
And are these your initials that's on a line that states, I want to give, well, it states, I want to waive my right to an attorney and represent myself.
Yes, sir.
Okay, those are your initials.
Yes, sir.
I have another document here, Mr. Gomez, that is titled Waiver of counsel for purposes of entering a guilty plea or proceeding to trial. Do you recognize this document, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature on above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez, uh, prior to signing the documents on paper and the documents on the tablet, did you have an opportunity to read the documents? The documents that was handed out to you?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive a documents that was handed out to you, which are the same documents over here?
I did it was, I signed it first.
Okay, but did you read it? That was handed out?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand well, that's the documents that's on the tablet, but these documents handed out earlier, right? Now, did you have an opportunity to read these documents, all of these documents?
Yes, sir.
And did you understand what you read?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gomez, I have before me a document. It's titled the misdemeanor plea admonishment. This is a document that we showed you earlier. On page 2 of this document, these are the initials that you acknowledge that were yours. And on page 3 of this document, this is the signature that you acknowledge that was yours. Now, Mr. Gomez, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Gomez, the state would like to use this document as evidence against you in your case. Is it all right for the state to use this document as evidence in your case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No objection. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Now, Mr. Gomez, is there any evidence that you are currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Gomez, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of guilty and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is that agreement?
It's 90 days jail, probated for 1 year, a $1,000 fine plus court cost, 60 hours community service, DWI education course, and drug and alcohol assessment.
Okay, so you already removed him. Okay. She said they didn't understand. Mr. Gomez? No. Oh.
This Gomez right here.
I'm sorry, hold on. Is it Garcia? Okay. I can give this picture.
Okay, now, Mr. Gomez, the state, what you looking for?
Garcia's paperwork.
Mr. Gomez, the state is offering that you serve 90 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you'll be on probation for 1 year. During the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $1,000 and court costs of $422, which comes to a total of fine and court costs of $1,422. No, during the 1 year period. I'll explain it to you. Your probation, you'll also be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month, a urinalysis fee of $15 each month. And you will be required to pay Jefferson County DWI education class and initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. And should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay $50. The total monthly installments that you would have to pay for this case is $205 each month. Would you be able to pay the $205 each month? Okay. You will also be required to perform 60 hours of community service attend and complete the DWI class, and have a drug and alcohol assessment. Mr. Gomez, do you understand the state's offer? Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just? And do you accept the state's offer? Mr. Gomez, I'll follow the plea bargaining agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Gomez, please stand on the X next to you on the left. You're gonna follow the directions of the clerk. Once you finish following the directions, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day.
Directions to probation are on the top. They're about to close for lunch, but you have to go today. So you might try to make it before they close and get in the door, but I don't know what they'll tell you, but you have to.
John
go
Gidry,
today.
that was-
And the phone number and everything else. Okay?
Mr. Cole? Okay, now, Mr. Cole, I see here, I'm looking at a form that said you wanted to waive your right to attorney and represent yourself.
Sir.
I was looking at a judge's explanation of rights to defendants without an attorney. Have you talked to one of the prosecutors?
No, sir.
Okay, just have a seat.